What's up, gangsters? So, as you know, if you're familiar with my channel, and if not, as you can probably tell by the 33 in the video title, I've talked a lot about disturbing movies. And you know what? I kind of really like doing so. So I kind of want to prioritize this series a little bit more again, but approach it a little differently. First of all, I want to give each video a specific theme. You know, a little something that holds the movies that I'll be covering together. And secondly, so how do I put this? Basically, for a lot of the upcoming videos, this one included, I had already picked 5 movies that I'll be covering, you know, like based on what I think will fit that specific theme, even if I've not seen those movies myself yet. So these new videos will be more like exploring these movies together. I think that could be fun. Like, I've covered most of the essentials by now, right? So let's just together take a look at what else is out there. But before we do that, a huge shout out to the latest Patreon members. KG, Jason Lockery, Garrison, Brandy Garza, Dazia, Suhail the Armless Nymphomaniac, okay, and yo, Ash Hunter, what's up, G? You guys are the uppest of gangsters. So if you enjoy what I do over here with Horrible Reviews, please consider becoming a member yourself as well, if you're not already, by taking a look over at patreon.com/horriblereviews. There's different tiers that all come with fun perks like early access, uncensored videos, previews, outtakes, all good stuff. So for this first new video, I went with the theme of, well, I couldn't really think of a punchy, like catchy title, but basically they're all kind of like relatively mainstream, well-known, well-respected, popular movies, kind of. I don't know. It also doesn't really matter all that much. So let's just take a look at the first movie, the oldest movie, Straw Dogs. Okay, well, yeah, let's do that. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, you know what? That was actually pretty good.
We follow Dustin Hoffman's character David, a timid scholar, who, together with his wife Amy, moves into a remote house near her small English hometown to study something. Amy's more masculine former lover and his friends don't take too kindly to this new outsider, all of which, together with some trouble in paradise, soon, well, not super soon, eventually results into a bunch of unpleasantness. It actually gets pretty tense, making this quite the controversial movie. Which is interesting considering this was a pretty big movie at the time, you know, the early 70s. See, this one's directed by new Hollywood bad boy Sam Peckinpah, who 2 years prior received an Oscar nomination for his widely acclaimed The Wild Bunch, and Dustin Hoffman was at a significant high point in his career, also 2 years prior being nominated for Best Actor for his performance in Midnight Cowboy. So, why is this movie so controversial? Well, for starters, there is a pretty uncomfortable scene at the movie's halfway point. Which, I know, it's a bit of a tautology, but it does ring extra true here, as Amy seemingly gets some enjoyment out of it. Which does all come to a quick stop as soon as her ex-lover, by the way, is joined by one of his friends. And then the movie continues being uncomfortable, as David remains oblivious to what's transpired, all of which comes to a really tense climax when the townsmen come knocking on their door, for subplot-related reasons, and the movie turns into a nerve-wracking home invasion thriller for the last 30 minutes. This movie is great. It's frustrating, but not necessarily in a bad way. Sure, the first hour or so, not all that much happens. Like my friend Craig said, it could have easily been 50 minutes shorter, although it does help slowly building up the ever-growing tension, as well as establish the characters. A lot of very flawed, mostly unlikable characters, but even that works. You know, like, life isn't always that black and white. Although, I did really hate this one guy with his annoying laugh.
Rats is life!
Oh. Stop it. And oh my goodness, David's actions towards the end are infuriating, but I don't know, I just can't hate on it because it does somehow work. Great performances, some effective cross-editing, interesting exploration of themes like moral ambiguity and toxic masculinity, all of which results in a great entry in this series that might not be as disturbing by today's standards, but is still very much worth checking out. Yeah, some 10 years ago they made a remake. Not sure why. And I haven't seen it, so I can't really say, but I'm pretty sure it's a way more polished, conventional thriller. That just doesn't sound very interesting compared to the raw and gritty original. So yeah, pretty great start, I'd say. So, what's next? Well, you know what? Let's just go through them chronologically, which means we're making a jump ahead to the late 90s for American History X. Yeah, you know this one. It's easily maybe the most popular movie that I've covered in general during this whole series. Funny thing though, I'm sure I watched this way back when I was a teenager probably, but I could not remember anything besides, well, that one scene. So now rewatching it for this video was kind of like rewatching it again for the first time. So not rewatching, seeing it again for the first time. So yeah, let's take a look. Okay, yeah, well, there's a lot to unpack here. American History X. For those who don't know, this movie follows two brothers. The older one, Derek, is a former neo-Nazi just released from prison, where he served time after killing two guys, while the younger one, Danny, is getting into trouble at school for embracing his brother's ideologies. Through flashbacks, we get to see how we got to this point, while in present time, Derek is reflecting on his past actions and starts questioning his beliefs. So, as this is such a well-known, critically acclaimed movie, I want to play devil's advocate a bit here, you know, to keep things a little spicy. But first, a few things that I do think work really well. Because, obviously, this is a well-made movie. The performances by the two Edwards are great, and the scenes depicting hate crimes, such as the attack on this Asian-owned supermarket, and most notably the infamous scene where Derek curb stomps this black guy to death, are highly effective and unsettling. It's all quite disturbing and will definitely get to you, and therefore this movie is generally perceived as, well, obviously anti-racism. That being said, I have come across some reviews saying the exact opposite, describing this as a movie that glorifies neo-Nazis. And to be honest, scenes like the super stylized, cool edited basketball game with triumphant music where the neo-Nazis win the rights, if you will, to the basketball court, the dinner scene where they're discussing the Rodney King riots, which is mostly just characters spouting racist rhetoric with little to no counter-arguments, or when, during his arrest, epic music plays while Derek is made to look cool, heroic, almost like a martyr. It is all a little... And I can definitely imagine people that this movie is supposedly against being all like, hell yeah. And not just that, I was honestly a little disappointed by how unsubtle, melodramatic, and overly simplified a lot of this felt. It's very black and white, and not just the flashback scenes. In this movie, you're either a hardcore neo-Nazi, having Nazi flags up your wall, singing racist songs and rocking the Hitler mustache, or you're a minority. But then Derek learns about racial profiling while in prison, and he's like, maybe these black guys aren't that bad after all. And then they take down the posters and fix racism. I realize that I myself am now simplifying the simplification of the movie a bit here. But I do believe that, while it's a very interesting and highly complex theme to tackle in your movie, I'm just not sure if it's all explored the right way. Still, don't get me wrong, I don't fully agree with all of those negative reviews, and I do enjoy this movie for a lack of better words, but it is an interesting discussion to be had. I mean, nobody's gonna come out of this movie thinking like, yay, racism is cool. And, well, the people that do, they're probably too far gone already either way. It's like, we'd say, torture porn. Well, this is gonna be a bad analogy, but let's say torture porn. People aren't jerking off while watching women being beaten and well, if they do, are you okay? In the end, you are allowed to make a movie about neo-Nazism from the perspective of a neo-Nazi, like a former neo-Nazi. I'm just not sure if this movie made all the right decisions in doing so. But hey, what do I know? I do sincerely find that an interesting discussion, so please feel free to let me know your thoughts, like your take on this discussion regarding this movie in the comments below if you want. In the meantime, let's see what's up next. Well, it's The Road. Funny thing, again, my very good friend and former roommate, Jeffrey, who appeared in 2 of my very, very old videos, he's been recommending me this movie since forever. Probably basically since when he saw it when it first came out, like back in 2009. And now, after all those years, I've finally watched it. So, this one's for you, Jeffrey. Well, that was just depressing. It sure is. You know how sometimes movies that are mostly disgusting get lumped in with the whole disturbing movie subgenre? Or movies that are just sad? I mean, I did a whole category on misery porn when I did my Ultimate Guide to Disturbing Movies video a few years ago. The Road, I wouldn't necessarily call disturbing, and it's definitely no misery porn, but it is absolutely bleak. That is the first thing people will tell you about it. Heck, that's how Jeffrey always recommended it. It's a post-apocalyptic movie, a subgenre I generally don't really care for. Not sure why, I don't know, it's just something that doesn't really pique my interest. This movie is great, however. We follow a father and his son as they try to survive this post-apocalyptic world, traveling south to escape the cold, as the world around them is slowly dying and cannibalistic gangs roam the earth, or whatever's left of it. The first thing that comes to mind while watching is just how gray it all is. The movie could have easily been in black and white, but it isn't. It's in color. There just isn't any, as the world they're living in is almost completely void of life. It's simple, but effective, especially in contrast with the saturated flashbacks. But yeah, production design is top-notch. It's a believable post-apocalyptic world. There's just so little hope in this movie, which works so well with its themes of, well, mostly death.
I'm trying to prepare him for the day when I'm gone.
Will I see you again? When will I see you?
Now that's just sad. This is also explored a lot in the flashbacks where we get to see the mom. The whole, what's even the point? What is there to live for? Like, why go on? It's, like, can you imagine? What would you do in a situation like this? I also like the theme of good and bad. The father tries to teach the kid to always do what's morally right, but as they become more and more desperate, the line between good and bad starts to blur, and the kid's not so sure how to feel about all of that. I feel like they could have explored some themes even further, like when they bring up religion, or when the kid learns about stuff from the, like the old world, but hey, I'm not complaining. Because, yeah, it's a great movie. Again, not so much disturbing, although there are a few scenes here and there that are relatively, like, given the context, pretty intense. This one scene gave me a pretty good scare, but overall, yeah, in such a grand story, with the world dying and all, it's the very small story of just a father and son that's so effective. It's like my friend Leva, a bit of an OG Letterboxd user, puts it. The relationship between a father and son that have nothing to lose except each other. Yeah, good stuff. Not fun, but great movie, and well worth checking out if you're feeling happy and hopeful and don't want that. The Road, check it out. 2 more movies left in today's video. And well, first up, a earlier title from a director that will go on and make it pretty big in Hollywood. It's Denis Villeneuve's Incendies. Funny thing, last time, I promise. I used to think that the title of this movie was an English word that I just didn't know the meaning of, like Incendies, like Incendies. That sounds like something, right? But it's not. It's a French-Canadian movie, so the title is French and it means fires. Incendies. Fires? So yeah, let's just take a look at the movie. Okay, wow. That was quite the trip. Yes, years before Dune and Blade Runner, before any of his English language movies for that matter, he made what could be considered his breakout movie, Incendies. And right off the bat, he treats us to some Radiohead. Which I had to look up. I don't think I've ever heard a Radiohead song, but its usage here is pretty powerful. I don't think I can play much more without getting copyright strike, but it's so effective that they use the exact same song again about an hour later. But let's start at the beginning, with Les Jumeaux, the twins. Their mother died, and through a rather unusual will, they learn that they have an older brother that they didn't know existed, and that their father, who they believe to be dead, is still alive. And the mother's last wish is that they deliver a letter to each of them. So the daughter, and eventually the son, travel to their mother's potentially fictional, unnamed Middle Eastern home country, pretty safe bet there, and the movie actually gets a lot of mileage out of this relatively simple premise as it cuts between present time and chapters in their mother's life. So this one is rather story heavy, and I'm not gonna go into all of that, but expect a lot of sadness, especially during their mother's life story, which is marked by a lot of unfortunate religious, civil, and political turmoil. And in this we find a lot of the disturbing aspects of the movie, like soldiers shooting up a bus filled with innocent civilians and some good old torture, as well as in how the story unfolds, which I don't want to give away because it's a major spoiler and this is a fantastic movie worth going in as blind as possible, but I do get comments here and there saying, just spoil it, G. And I guess you guys are right. Like, you guys are old and wise enough to decide for yourself whether or not you want to, have the movie spoiled. And you guys know how to skip spoilers if you want to. So, yeah, do that or not. Because the lost older brother was taken from the mom after birth, grew up and got trained to be an infamous torturer, after which she gave birth to the twins, making this guy both the long-lost brother and father to the twins, something the mother only found out just before she died. Boom! Plot twisted. And it's like, damn, that is pretty But, yeah, great movie. At a little over 2 hours, it's a relatively long watch, but the chapter structure in combination with engaging stories, believable and powerful performances, and just in general great filmmaking makes this well worth your time. And it's easy to see how this movie helped Denis Villeneuve reach a wider audience. Yeah, and believe it or not, but this was actually my first Villeneuve movie ever. The only other one that I've seen is, well, it's probably also a French title, Polytechnique, which, honestly, wouldn't look misplaced as part of the series either. And well, I thought I'd seen Enemy, but that was just the double. But yeah, great movie. Check it out. And that already brings us to the last movie in today's video. We're heading back to Europe. Straw Dog was a British-American co-production, and the rest is all North America. So we're now in Denmark for Jagten, better known as The Hunt, arguably Dogma 95 co-founder Thomas Vinterberg's most critically acclaimed movie. So, yeah, that sounds promising. Let's see what all the fuzz is about. Whew! Yeah, that's an interesting one. It sure is. And it stars the universally beloved Mads Mikkelsen, so that's a good start. He plays Lucas, a divorced teacher at a kindergarten whose life is finally looking up. He starts dating, and his ex-wife allows for him to see his son more often, but all of this happiness is rather short-lived, as he is then one day accused of abusing one of the kids, the daughter of his best friend, a rumor that quickly spreads throughout the entire community of the small town he lives in, turning his life into a living hell. And from here on out, it becomes an infuriating watch. See, there's no ambiguity regarding whether or not he did. He's innocent, but of course the parents understandably believe and want to protect the children, so Lucas gets shunned by the community, and this makes for some rather hard to watch scenes. And I feel like it's this moral dilemma that makes this such an interesting and memorable watch. As a viewer, you side with the innocent protagonist, but you honestly can't blame the parents. So in the end, you're just like, yeah, this sucks. Remember when I played devil's advocate a bit during my American History X review? I kind of wanted to do that here as well, but it's a little more hard for me this time around. See, negative reviews criticize this movie for highlighting the exception when it comes to child abuse by focusing on a false accusation, and for focusing on the accused instead of the individual and collective trauma of the children, parents, and community in general, arguing that this is harmful to actual survivors and their credibility. Which I get, but it's also kind of like saying movie that is about X should be about Y. Does that make sense? Sure, false accusations are rare, but it does happen, and they're allowed to make a movie about that. But again, I get it. Child abuse is a very delicate subject matter, and like with American History X, I find this a very interesting discussion, but I don't think it discredits the value and quality of this movie. I thought it was great. Believable, nuanced performances, realistically infuriating storyline without it getting gratuitous, and a clever, if somewhat audience-dividing ending. Yeah, I absolutely recommend this one. Yeah. Man, it was kind of a heavy video today. Well, writing it, I was kind of worried that I wasn't going to be able to make it like funny or entertaining. I don't know, I always find it a little more difficult when talking about these more serious, like actual good movies. Like, I always try to write in little jokes here and there, but I'm not even sure if that's always necessary. Please feel free to let me know. And in general, what you thought of this video, because after that sudden wrap-up of The Hunt, we're already at the end of this part 33 of the most disturbing movies ever made. How do I call it now? The most disturbing movies series. I'll be back soon with part 34, where we'll be taking a look at some more, more traditionally disturbing movies. So that should be fun. And by more traditionally, I just mean more gore and violence and all that good stuff. If you're enjoying these videos and would like to support me in being able to keep doing so, you know the drill. Please feel free to take a look over at patreon.com/horrible-reviews. And give me a follow on Instagram if you haven't already, where I'm currently working my way through some 200 shorts covering all the disturbing movies that I've talked about so far. And finally, give me a follow on Letterboxd, where I fail to write reviews for the movies that I like. But hey, I'm sure I'll be picking that up at some point. Thanks for watching. Cheers, guys. Have a nice day.